Okay, we're going to look at geometric angles. We're going to start off by talking about what Gann said about angles and where he gets his idea from. I'm not saying I agree with it, but this is basically what he said. And first of all, he said that there are 360 degrees in each circle. So what we've got here is we've got a circle, and as we all know, the circle is divided into 360 degrees. And if we have our centre of our circle, which we'll say is here. Now, Gann said on any chart you have two axes. You have a time axis that runs along the bottom. In this particular case, we're talking about days, and you have a price axis that runs up the side here, which is in pennies in this particular case. But if it was looking at the American market, it would be in dollars. If you were looking at gilts, then they value gilts in pounds, whereas British equities are quoted in pennies. So whatever the item is actually quoted in. So if we take our 360 degrees, we have two axes. So we've got our time and price axes. So if we go from the centre of the circle directly up, that would represent our price axes. And if we go from the centre of the circle horizontally across, this would represent our time axes, which in the particular chart we've got at the moment represents days. Now, Gann said the most important angle, therefore, must be the one that splits time and price exactly in half. Now, as you all know, so if we think of this in degrees, then if we've gone from the centre of the circle horizontally across, then that would come out at 90 degrees. And as we all know, halfway between 360 or 0 degrees, which is the same thing, then the line that splits that in half would be 45 degrees. And our 45 degree line would come out something like that. So 45 degrees would be here. Now he says to draw 45 degrees on any chart. To represent that line, it's one that goes up at the rate of 1 penny per day. So it would go across 1 day and go up 1 penny, would represent 45 degrees. Now I actually don't think it's got anything to do with degrees, but you come to the same conclusion anyway. So he said his most important angle is that one, and the next angle he would use will be the one that splits 45 degrees and 0 in half, which would be something like that. And he says to draw that one, it's one that goes up at the rate of 2 pennies every day. The one that's below 45 degrees, to draw that one, he says you go across 2 days and up 1 penny. So all he's really doing is splitting a quarter of a circle into its geometric proportions. So his most important angle is a 1 by 1, which he says represents 45 degrees, but it really hasn't got anything to do with 45 degrees. The reason for this is if you look at a currency, then a 1 by 1 is like a vertical line. If you're looking at something that's very high priced, such as I don't know, copper or something, then you'll find the line is very, very flat. I've just happened to have scaled this so it looks like 45 degrees. So it's going up in 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, and going across in days. A 1 by 1 looks like 45 degrees, but it really depends on what you're actually looking at and how it's actually scaled. So his angle that is above that is one that goes up 2 points per time period, and the one that's above that one is 4 points per time period. And so those are basically Gann's numbers. So he has a 1 by 1, then a 2 by 1, then a 4 by 1. The next one would be an 8 by 1. And you can see each time they get steeper and steeper. The ones that are below a 1 by 1, or he said the 45 degree line, is a 1 by 2. One that goes up 1 penny every 2 days in this particular case. The next one below that one will be a 1 by 4. The next one will be a 1 by 8. And basically, those are Gann's angles, and you sometimes get it's referred to on other software packages as what he called a Gann fan, or what other people call a Gann fan. And he said in a daily chart that you should draw daily angles, and on a weekly chart you should draw weekly angles, one that goes at 1 penny every week, 2 pennies every week, 4 pennies every week, 8 pennies every week, etc. And on a monthly chart you would draw monthly angles. So you go at 1 penny every month, 2 pennies every month, 4 pennies every month, 8 pennies every month, etc. This is completely, I believe, completely and utterly wrong, and it's what 99.99% recurring of all people who do Gann do, who haven't heard me speak. Now we're going to look at the concept of time and price squaring, and it sounds incredibly complicated, but in fact it's incredibly simple. However, it did take me about 2 years to understand what the hell he was talking about, and basically it was this. So what we've done here is the market's fallen down to a low, started to rise, and I've drawn a 1x1 angle from that low and a 1x2 angle from that low. So continue to rise. Now I've no idea when the market's going to get to the angle. It may never get to the angle. However, I will know it's got there the day it actually physically gets there. So let's say that we actually get to the angle here. Now, if I were to count how many days it took from where we drew the angles from at the bottom there, to when it hit the angle, so let's say it's, we find that it's actually 90 days it took to actually touch the 1x1 angle. Well, I don't have to count how many days up it is from the low that we drew the angles from. I know that it must be 90, because that angle here is one that goes up at the rate of 1 penny every day. So in other words, time is equal to price. Time is equal to 90 and price is equal to 90. Now I don't need a chart to do that. I can do that just by having a list of prices and working out mathematically every day. So we're not really being chartists here. We're looking for mathematical points in time where it could be interesting. However, let's say that it hasn't hit a 1x1. Let's say it hits the angle below there, which is a 1x2. Now, in this particular case, I've deliberately made it not get there the way you expect it to get there. You can see here that it fell short of getting to the angle, goes up and then falls to it. Things very rarely get there the way you expect. You know, you think, oh, it's fallen below the 1x1, therefore it's going to go down to the 1x2, and I've just made it difficult. That's what usually happens in real life. Now, when it touches this one, let's say that it took 100 days to touch the 1x2 angle. Well, because it's one that goes up at the rate of 1 penny every 2 days, that means that we've actually risen 50 pence, because that's half of 100. So time and price are still equal, but not as important as a 1x1, because they're not equal in both ways. It's half. So that's what he meant by squaring time and price. The 1x1 is what he meant by squaring time and price, really. But it's really when you touch an angle, time and price is equal in some particular way.